Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Govinda Vallabha Girivardhari. Govinda Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasodanandana Braja Chandaranjana. Jasodanandana Braja Chandaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopjana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopjana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasodanandana Braja Chandaranjana. Jasodanandana Braja Chandaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Mr. Bhagavatam, Srimad Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Shiva Prabhupada, Shri Shri Radha Shri Shri Gonikai Ki, Jai Garuda Govinda, Oh glory to Him, oh glory to Him, oh glory, oh glory, Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh, that's right. Okay, read. Sabhajayan Vishudena Chetashataschikirshitam Prarishamane Anubi Ashubhi Kadambam Chetam Abhyadat Sabhajayan Vishudena Chetashataschikirshitam Prarishaman e ashubhi Dhammam chetam abhyayat Sabhajayan Vishudena Chetashataschikirshitam Prarishaman e ashubhi Kadamam chetam abhayat Sabhajayan Vishudena Chetashataschikirshitam Prarishamane ashubhi Kadamam chetam abhayat. Ladies, ladies, ladies. Okay. Brahma. Oh, sorry. Wrong bed. Here. Etavati. Oh, wait there. Sorry. There we go. Oh, here we go. Sabhajayan. Worshipping. Vasudena. Pure. Chetasha. With a heart. Tat of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chikirshitam, the intended activities. Prarishamanai, gladdened. Ashubhi, with senses. Kadamam, to Kadama Muni. Sha, and Devahuti. Idam, this, abhyaya, that, spoke. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. After worshipping the Supreme Lord with gladdened senses and a pure heart for His intended activities as an incarnation, Brahma spoke as follows to Kadamba and Devahuti. Purport. As explained in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, anyone who understands the transcendental activities, the appearance and the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be considered liberated. Brahma, therefore, is a liberated soul. Although he is in charge of this material world, he is not exactly like a common living entity, since he is liberated from the majority of the follies of the common living entities. He was in knowledge of the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he therefore worshipped the Lord's activities, and with a glad heart he also praised Garuda Muni, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Kapila had appeared as his son. One who can become the father of the Supreme Lord is certainly a great devotee. There is a verse spoken in by a Brahmana in which he says that he does not know what the Vedas and what the Puranas are, but while others might be interested in the Vedas or Puranas, he is interested in Nanda Maharaj, who appeared as the father of Krishna. The Brahmana wanted to worship Nanda Maharaj because the Personality of Godhead as a child crawled in the yard of his house. These are some of the good sentiments of devotees. If a recognized devotee brings forth the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, how he should be praised. Rama therefore not only worshipped the incarnation of Godhead Kapila, but also praised his so-called father, Garuda Muni. Om Agyan Vanadasha Janandana Salakaya Chakshunmita Mena Tasnai Sri Gurave Namah. So we just see this Lord Brahma. He's probably the most exalted personality in this material universe. I mean, actually it is said, he is the most perfected being in this world. He has like 78% of the qualities of Krishna. And we have some minute percentage of those qualities. But Lord Brahma, the highest a living entity can have in this material world, is like 78% of the qualities of Krishna. And Lord Brahma has those qualities. I mean, he's the original founder of our whole Parampara system. Lord Krishna personally enlightened him within the heart, right there at the beginning of creation. And he's taken his personal responsibility to try and deliver everyone within this universe. I mean, he's a leader of the demigods, the engineer. He was specifically empowered to engineer this entire creation. He's fully enlightened in transcendental knowledge. However, even though he's such an exalted personality, he's accepting his natural position here as the humble servant of Krishna, and he's here glorifying Krishna's dear devotees. So, and he's glorifying this Garuda Muni. He's said to be like a Maha-yogi, great mystic. He meditated for like 10,000 years to attain, just to please Krishna, to please the Lord. And he attained perfection. For the yogis, the perfection is that the Supreme Lord, they're meditating on Krishna in the heart, and that super soul, that four-armed Vishnu form, actually reveals himself to the successful yogi. And of course, at that time, when Krishna revealed himself, Krishna also revealed that Lord Vishnu revealed to him that he would appear as his son in the future. Very special personalities. Also, we know Vasudeva and Devaki, they performed very, very intense, vigorous austerities for 12,000 celestial years, just because they wanted to have a son like the Supreme Personality of God. And of course, Krishna, being pleased with their austerities, appeared as their son while they were in the prison house of Kamsa. He appeared there as his son. Of course, Nanda Maharaj, You know, he's Krishna's eternal father. And Krishna. Yeah, so although we see this Lord Brahma, you know, he's worshipping the Supreme Lord, offering wonderful prayers and glorification of the Lord, appreciating his activities. We see in the Vedas, in the Bhagavad Gita specifically, it mentions that there's many people who don't accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there's that verse, those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, Krishna says, they do not surrender unto me. And Prabhupada mentioned in that purport, you know, it is said in Bhagavad Gita that simply by surrendering oneself to Krishna, one can overcome the influence of this material energy and attain ultimate liberation, ultimate happiness, ultimate fulfillment in life. Everything you could say that everyone in the world or in creation is aspiring for and working so hard to achieve and trying to find the perfect formula for, can be achieved simply by surrendering to Krishna. So Prabhupada brings up the point that the question is, if such perfection can be easily attained simply by surrendering to Krishna, why aren't people surrendering to Krishna? And Prabhupada used the example of we could say the exalted personalities within this universe. I mean, we've got that, you know, the administrators, the scientists, the philosophers, I mean, the intelligentsia of society. They do not surrender to Krishna. And Prabhupada, he answers that question in that purport. He says, well, actually, the really learned leaders of society, and he uses the Brahma as an example, Brahma, Shiva, Kapila, Kamaras, Manu, Vyas, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, all the great acharyas coming in the disciplic succession, all the great Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, they do accept Krishna as the Supreme Person. You know, sometimes people think that they see us chanting on the street and they think, well, there's that minority group, the Hare Krishnas, you know, once again doing their thing on the street. But what they don't realize is that we're not the minority group. Actually, we're the majority group. Because in the whole spiritual world, which are like trillions of universes, they're all devotees. Even on the heavenly planets, they're all devotees. They all accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the conditioned souls who don't accept Krishna, they're actually the minority. They're just a handful of souls, lost souls. So we're not part of the minority. We're actually part of the majority of Krishna's servants. So Prabhupada mentions in that purport that those who are not actually philosophers, scientists, educators, people that are even claim to be very, very intelligent, who pose themselves as such, they simply pose themselves as such for material gain. They do not accept the plan or the authority of the Supreme Lord. And, I mean, generally they have no idea who is God. I mean, if you could walk down the street and ask a dozen people, who do you think God is? Who's God? You may get a variety of answers. Some people say there is no such thing as God. Well, they say God is just some remote functionary. He just appeared on the earth sometime back in history, created everything, disappeared, never to be seen again. Other people may say, well, such and such a demigod is God. In the Hindu culture, people, they say there's so many gods. Here we got Krishna, Brahma, Shiva, Durga. Even we did one home program, and on their altar they even had a picture of Einstein. I don't know how he found his way on the altar, but they worship everyone. Everyone's God. Of course, if everyone's God, then there is no God, because no one is equal to God, no one is greater than God. God is the original supreme fountainhead of everything that exists, including the demigods. So, also Krishna says that, states in the Bhagavad Gita, unintelligent men that do not know me perfectly think that I was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, Krishna says, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So here Krishna is referring to the ignorant, less intelligent, impersonalist philosophers who argue that the Supreme Lord ultimately has no form. They simply speculate on Vedic literature without any tinge of true Krishna consciousness. And for such envious personalities who desire to merge with God and to become God, Krishna will never reveal himself. He declares this in the Bhagavad Gita. For him, they are covered by his internal potency. Therefore, they cannot. He reserves that right not to reveal himself just to anyone and everyone. There's that other verse in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna declares that fools deride me when I descend in my human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. So Krishna, he is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller of all controllers. He's systematically conducting all the affairs of both spiritual and material worlds without a flaw, simply by his all-pervasive energies. It says not even a blade of grass moves without his will. He's just by his desire, trillions of universes are just going on, incredible, in perfect symmetry, perfect harmony. Yet many foolish men consider Krishna to merely a powerful man, nothing more. Such foolish persons, including the so-called scholars who commentate on Bhagavad Gita, who deride Krishna as ordinary man. Their only experience in life is that of a human being. Therefore, when they hear that Krishna has a form, a human-like form, they simply conclude that he must have a form like ours. They cannot even begin to comprehend the nature of Krishna's transcendental, eternal spiritual form, which is beyond this material world, beyond the material elements. They cannot even possibly conceive that a person like Krishna, who appears like an ordinary man, as a little cowherd boy, you could say, can be the controller of this gigantic cosmos. Even us, when you think about it, before we became devotees, we didn't really know who God was, did we? We may have had some different ideas. Some people believe God was an old man that just sits in the clouds, with a long grey beard, that writes down our bad things. But some people believe we're all God. It's a very democratic idea, that I am you and you are me. We can all be God together, all be supreme enjoyers and controllers. Some people believe that, when God created this world, he just transformed himself into it. And therefore everything we see around us, that's God. There's no other God. That's it. This creation is God. Because some people believe that God is just a personality that was created in the human mind by just weak people who need to worship some superior being to make them feel good, to make them overcome their deficiencies. When you think about it, who would have thought that God is this 7 to 10-year-old cowherd boy living in Vrindavan, performing his pastimes. I mean, even in the early days, one Maharaj was giving a class and he was saying, how is it possible that Prabhupada came to America and convinced everyone that this cowherd boy, Krishna, playing the flute with the peacock is actually God? And then he answered the question, he said, because Prabhupada, being the pure devotee of Krishna, he was completely convinced. He knew Krishna. He's an eternal associate of Krishna. He's with Krishna. There's never a moment when he doesn't see Krishna or think of Krishna. And so there was no doubt about it. When Prabhupada said Krishna was God, you could not accept it. It's the power of the pure devotee of Krishna. So they may assume themselves, and there's many people in the world who assume themselves to be great servants or great devotees of the Supreme, because at heart they do not accept Krishna as a Supreme Lord. It is mentioned in the Vedas, the fruit of devotional service, going back to Godhead, will never be tasted. Yes. That's why, sometimes we meet a lot of Christians out there. There's even someone put this little sticker. It said, I've been born again. I've been born again and again and again and again. They always invite us to the Christian barbecue. We can come and associate with them and get some knowledge. But we see, this is why Krishna declares, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, but out of those who have achieved perfection, Krishna says, hardly one knows me in truth. Which means even big scholars, big philosophers, even many demigods, they cannot really understand Krishna's transcendental nature or personality. Understand him as he is. However, we see here in this verse, those pure devotees like Lord Brahma, they accept Krishna as their Lord and Master because they know who Krishna is. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they completely surrender to him, engage in his loving devotional service. So this is the result of real enlightenment. One fully realizes one's eternal spiritual identity. And what is that? It's just a tiny, insignificant servant of Krishna. Therefore, sometimes if you tell your friends, I'm going to go and join the Hare Krishna movement, become a servant, they go, what? Who wants to be a servant? So, accepting one's position with this knowledge of one's eternal position as a tiny, insignificant servant of Krishna, one's not proud. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the different qualities, such as humility, pridelessness, simplicity, cleanliness, self-control, renunciation, which if developed are very favorable for spiritual advancement. But out of these qualities, we see Krishna he first lists humility as the first item. Our bhakti culture, the jewel of humility is the emblem of a sincerely surrendered soul. And the deeper the spirit of surrender, the deeper the feelings of humility naturally manifest. Of course, the question we may ask, or someone may ask, is, what does humility mean to me practically? Or how do I get it? Or do I really need humility? Does it mean I have to give away all my possessions and beg from others? Or should I just allow others to take full advantage of me? Is this humility? If someone wants my car, I should just give them my car. Someone wants my watch, I just give them my watch. If someone wants my allegiance, I should simply just follow them. Is this humility? If opportunities for success come my way, should I just let them pass me by? Or if someone is encouraging me to give up my spiritual practices, I should just give them up? Is this humility? Just this kind of meekness and just vulnerability? In regards to such questions, we learn from our bhakti school how Lord Chaitanya, who is the ultimate founder of our Hare Krishna movement, he describes humility as something much more than just some external presentation of meekness or the action of simply giving away your possessions or loyalty. He teaches us that true humility happens naturally for one who understands their true position as an eternal servant of Krishna, and that all things of this world are actually rightfully owned by Krishna and must be used in Krishna's service. Yes. In this way, we humbly protect our bodies, our possessions, to be used in Krishna's service. We also understand that in our spiritual life, our spiritual life, our consciousness, or our Krishna consciousness, actually is our most valuable asset. People talk about their assets. They talk about their home, their investments, the money in the bank, so many things. But in reality, those things, when you die, you leave all those things behind. You come into the world with nothing, you leave with nothing. But Krishna consciousness is our eternal asset. And it's so precious. How many people in this world actually have this most valuable asset, this Krishna consciousness? Very, very few. It is so valuable. Therefore, we always have to protect it and nurture it. Whatever adjustment we need to make in our life, we have to be very careful to protect this Krishna consciousness, because we understand that Maya, who is manifested as this very powerful, deluding material energy, is a very, very clever thief. And she's going to try and steal away this most precious asset. Yes, our Krishna consciousness. This can happen if we become lazy in regards to our spiritual practices. It is said, trying to make spiritual advancement in this materialistic age with our materialistic conditioning, perhaps thousands of lifetimes in this material world, it's like rowing a boat upstream against the current. So what happens when you slacken off? You start going backwards straight away, don't you? Yeah. So this can happen if we slacken off in our spiritual practices, chanting of the holy name, coming to the temple, getting the Lord's blessings, reading the scriptures, associating with devotees, always eating prasadam, sacrificing our energy to try and perform some service for Krishna. See, when you start going backwards in your spiritual life due to negligence of your spiritual practices, you start minimizing and compromising on your spiritual standards. And then it means you don't really care about your spiritual advancement. You just focus on trying to find some happiness in this world separate from Krishna. So this talking back to this topic of humility. Humility is many things. Humility is honesty. When we realize that we have become so bewildered and infatuated by this body and this world that we no longer realize, in essence, who we are, what our real purpose in life is, what the purpose of this creation is, who God is. We just, and therefore, because we're so bewildered, we need guidance. These stirrings and realizations constitute the beginning of this wonderful quality called humility. And of course, many of us have experienced that. In this world, we realized we couldn't find we're just trying to enjoy like everyone else, but something missing in our life. we weren't really finding ultimate happiness or peace within our hearts or fulfillment. And therefore, in a humble way, we started realizing that we need help. We need guidance. And of course, Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita, if you want the best guidance and knowledge, you have to approach a bona fide spiritual master in a humble, gentle, submissive mood and render service to such a great soul. Then we can be blessed with genuine spiritual understanding. Without this humble humility or this submissive mood, it is said the process of receiving knowledge will be ineffective. And of course, in Bhakti Yoga, we learn the secret of success in making spiritual advancement lies in always endeavoring to please the spiritual master. You know, a disciple becomes beloved to the spiritual master through good behavior, obedience, meekness, unhesitating service, and also special endeavors to help spread the spiritual master's mission. This is what really pleases the spiritual master. So a truly sincere disciple will never think himself or herself independent of one's spiritual master, but always remember to surrender and truly honor the spiritual master means to carry out their instructions word for word. Also in the Vedic literature we read, we're also advised to be careful not to become too over-familiar with the Guru, taking them for granted. This means that for our own good, we should always maintain a humble, even fearful attitude and always endeavor to show the highest respect in the presence of one's Guru. That he should not be treated as an ordinary man, even if he sometimes behaves like an ordinary man. Rather, we should try and focus on the internal features of the spiritual master. How he is engaged in devotional service, how he is very dear to Krishna, how he's especially empowered by Krishna to deliver us from the ocean of material existence. Also, we see Lord Chaitanya, he taught us about humility. That we should chant the holy name in a humble state of mind. Then we can feelingly and effectively glorify and reciprocate the Lord while we're chanting his holy name. And we shouldn't just be chanting robotically or mechanically. That there should be some feeling there. So calling out, Prabhupada said we should chant Hare Krishna and cry like a child calls out to his mother. It means when we chant, especially our japa, we're in the mood of crying out to Krishna. We're in this, it's like a helplessness, this helpless mood, begging Krishna, please accept me, please uplift me. You know, I've fallen into this material world, I'm suffering due to separation from you. I'm trying to make some spiritual advancement. I need help. We want Krishna to extend his hand, to lift us up, bring us close to him, and embrace us. Lift us up from the material platform to the spiritual platform, from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness, and be with him. So in this way, when we're chanting, we should be reaching out with our hearts to Krishna in a helpless mood. Especially, if you're a preacher or you're out distributing books. It's not an easy job in this day and age, trying to spread Krishna consciousness in this materialistic world. People are so fallen, addicted to so many bad habits. So the preachers especially, they're called, we see the book distributors, they realize that there's no way that I can effectively perform my service without Krishna's mercy and blessings and empowerment. And therefore they're calling out to Krishna, even while they're out there between talking to one person, another person, they're chanting the holy name, calling out to Krishna, calling out to Krishna. Yes. Humility is also gratitude, whereby one feels joyful and thankful and happy, always knowing that despite my faults, despite my unworthiness, I've been blessed in so many ways. Even my ability to remember Krishna in times of trouble, my determination to remain fixed in my spiritual practices is made possible by Krishna. Humility is also surrender, whereby one thinks, my dear Lord, you are my proprietor. You're the proprietor of my life, my time, my body, my possessions. I completely belong to you. You're in control of what happens to me. I'm completely surrendered to your will. This is a manifestation of humility in complete surrender. Just let me do some humble service, Krishna, to my Guru, my fellow devotees, without any desire for recognition. Let my only desire be is to seek your mercy. So just surrendering our total will to Krishna's will is a way to develop our natural spiritual humility. Also, Prabhupada explains how humility means that one should be not anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Yes. In the material conception of life, one is very eager to receive honor from others. Even people proclaim to be God himself. They say the first symptom of material consciousness is a desire for material importance. Material vision, we see success means to us mass wealth, fame, followers, power, influence, prestige. Generally materialistic people, they're very proud of their advancement of education, philosophical speculation, scientific knowledge, possessing material things. They're so proud of their so-called advancement of material civilization that when they hear that these even though we see this, some people, they like the Hare Krishna movement. They like the devotees, they like the prasadam. But when they hear that we're saying that these ancient scriptures can guide humanity, they fall away. They're so proud of their so-called advancement and of this so-called materialist. They think this material world, even though it's in a complete mess and it's just unlimited problems, they think they got some faith. It's going to really, that their attempt at civilization is going to be some kind of excess. And they haven't accepted that it's a complete failure. And therefore they can't believe that they have no faith that these ancient scriptures, like the Vedas, can actually guide so-called advanced modern man. Yes, so people are very proud. People are very proud that I am an Indian, I'm Australian, I'm a Russian, I'm American, etc. If one is born in a good family or a rich family, aristocratic family, he or she is very proud. If one is very learned, a great scholar, or a very handsome or very beautiful or wealthy, they're very, very proud. Yeah, well, once again, the results of enlightenment is to begin to realize one's true spiritual identity as a tiny, insignificant servant of Krishna. When you realize that, there's no pride. Such a person thinks all these nice qualifications I have, opulences, such as wealth, education, beauty, facilities, are simply just amazing gifts given to me by Krishna, so let me engage these things in Krishna's service for his pleasure. Yes. Ultimately, Krishna reciprocates with the sincerity of our surrender. how much we're simply trying to please him with a sincere, humble, grateful heart. Therefore, in Bhakti Yoga, we're advised, we have to learn to discriminate between the materialistic mentality and the pure spiritual Krishna conscious mentality. And Krishna, we know that Krishna, he doesn't like to see his devotees being proud. He accepts everyone's service, but he doesn't like to see one devotee thinking themselves better than others. There's so many examples, so many stories in our Vedic histories just to teach us that pride is an unwanted anatta, showing us we should accept our true position as a humble servant of the servant of the servant of the servants of Krishna, and thus become a genuine Vaishnava or Vaishnavi. You know, pride is another obstacle that can impede our spiritual advancement. You know, instead of being humble and tolerant and offering all respects to others, if we become puffed up with false prestige, thinking we're better than others, what happens? We will inevitably begin to see others in a critical way, commit offenses. There's many examples in the scriptures of even where Krishna's teaching us examples of even great personalities, exalted, who fell down from their exalted spiritual position because of offending others. And Prabhupada told us it's important for us devotees to cooperate together in a spirit of unity. The relationships between devotees must be very genuine, based on love and trust and appreciation. How a genuine devotee always tries to see the good in others, not their faults. However, if we, out of pride or envy, we offend a Vaishnava or Vaishnavi or mistreat them, Krishna, what happens is Krishna may withdraw his mercy and protection from us. And what happens, we see that sometimes when devotees become very offensive, they immediately become filled with anxiety. Their faith in Krishna becomes confused, their attitude and devotional service becomes sour, and eventually one loses Christian shelter, and their mind just eventually just takes them away from association of devotees. So this pride and also laziness is how Maya can take you away from the path of bhakti. It's very important to understand these things, because in reality so many devotees have left ISKCON and have given up their spiritual practices and are experiencing great unhappiness in their life as a direct result. Of course, in reality, pride is something that we can't hang on to. No one can hang on to pride. We are always being humbled in some way or other. You know, Krishna and his agencies, like the material energy, have their ways of humbling everyone, don't they? I mean, every day people are being constantly humiliated by the world around them, let down, hurt, betrayed by loved ones, exploited, cheated, threatened by natural disasters. There's so many natural disasters at the moment. Frustrated in their plans for happiness. Just living in this world is a humbling experience. In this way, you know, Krishna has his way of reminding us that this world is not our real home. It's not a place where you'll find ultimate happiness and fulfillment. You know, Krishna loves everyone. He simply wants a deep, meaningful exchange of love with those devotees who give themselves happily and willingly and humbly in his loving devotional service. Unfortunately, it is we who may withhold our love to him out of pride and out of ignorance. So we see here Lord Brahma, he's the fully enlightened personality, humble devotees, humbling himself here, realizing his true position as a humble servant of Krishna, glorifying Krishna's wonderful devotees. He's showing us what it means to be a genuine Vaishnava devotee of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Do anyone have any questions I'd like to ask? Okay. You have to speak up, I'm a bit deaf.
You mentioned at the beginning that Vasudeva and Devaki performed austerities for 16,000 years, I think was it you said? 12,000 years.
In austerity, it's in the Krishna book, in the Bhagavatam.
Okay, 12,000 years to get Krishna as their son.
Yeah.
But what is the backstory? Like, they didn't get to have him for very long.
He's what?
I was just wondering whether you know what is the backstory to it, like, because they didn't get to have him for very long, did they? But he lived with Nanda and Yasoda.
Huh? What did he say?
What's the backstory?
The story? How they did it?
Well, they didn't get to have Krishna with them for very long. It was mostly Krishna lived with Nanda and Yasoda.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they performed these austerities for 12,000 celestial years, I think. The celestial year is like 6 months of the demigod's years is 1 day of ours, right? That's a long time. And then Krishna appeared before them, first in his forearm form, right? The reason why he appeared, then he transformed himself into a two-arm baby Krishna. Prabhupada explains why he appeared first in his forearm form, just to show them that he's fulfilling their desires. And then what happened is, Krishna, he told his father to take me to and swap me over with the son born of Yasoda, right? So what happened is he went there with the Krishna born that appeared before Devaki and Vasudeva. And then when he got there in the middle of the night, Yasoda was sleeping. So he got the Vasudeva Krishna, and when he put him onto bed to swap him with the Yasoda Krishna, the two Krishnas merged, became one Krishna. That's explained by Sanatana Goswami in one scripture where he explains it. Is that what you mean? Is that what you're asking? Huh?
He's asking what the backstory is to Devaki and Vasudeva missing out on Krishna's useful pastimes. How come they missed out?
How they what?
How come they missed out on the childhood pastimes of Krishna? Devaki.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they wanted Krishna as their son, so...
But he came...
They wanted a son like... They didn't actually want Krishna. They wanted a son like the Supreme Lord, right?
But he came back when he was about just after 11 years of age. And he was with them for 120... 100 and something years in Dwarka. So they had more time with Krishna than Yasoda and Nanda had, you could say, in one sense.
Jai Shri Prabhupada ki